Hey guys, this week on the Soapbox, I wanted to show you my top 3 kind of go-to dynamic stretches. Great alternative other than what we would refer to as static stretches, which is where you would just hold a stretch for longer than 30 seconds. I am trying to really encourage dancers and dance teachers to include more dynamic type stretching over this static stretching. The thing about static stretching is if you hold a stretch for longer than 30 seconds, it will actually inhibit or turn that muscle off, which we don't want to happen, especially right before a class. So have a look at these dynamic stretches, or as Lisa Howell likes to call them, fascial mobilizers, to kind of see a great alternative to dynamic stretches rather than static.
All right, so this mobilizer I like to call the bow and arrow. As you can see, one elbow is moving back as the other arm reaches forward. If we slow it down here, it really encourages upper back and shoulder mobility, and you want to swing through it because that momentum will actually help you get to end range as you rotate, which is important when you're mobilizing. Hips are loose and knees are also relaxed as well, and it's a great one to put in warm-up for upper back mobility. This one I made up. It has a little bit of a West African flair. And again, it's encouraging that rotation of the upper back towards the opposite wall. We do the first set kind of half time and then we double time it here. And it's a little bit of a challenge for the brain because the arms are going in different directions, but it's a nice one again to keep it moving and facilitate upper back rotation. All right, so this one I like to call the deep front lunges, and I learned it from Lisa Howell. It's stretching the deep anterior fascial line, it's stretching the front body as they come forward, and then it's also stretching the shoulders along the way. Notice it's done in parallel, and when they come forward, yes, I want them to sink low, but not so much that they just are defaulting into their low back. So I'm actually cueing them to give me a little posterior pelvic tilt when they come forward to really stretch out the front thigh that they're kneeling on. There's also a point to the arms. So they're going to reach up as far as they can and reach back as far as they can. Again, it's full body, so we're not just trying to mobilize just one part in warm-up. We're trying to also mobilize the upper body as well. For reps, I would normally do about 10 to 15 sets, with front and back counting as one set. Before I switch to the other side, we've just condensed it here. All right, so this one's probably one of my favorites that I learned from Lisa. It's a hamstring mobilizer, but I just call it the jumpy exercise. And I've slowed it down a bit here. So the first set, they're to do 8 to 10 in parallel. This second set is done both legs in turnout. And then the third set is going to be both feet turned in, which is trying to facilitate that internal rotation. And then the last set is done with a bit of a cross reach. And I'm going to kind of go through the details of what you want to be picky with in this exercise. And again, just noticing there is a point to the upper body, not just a lower body movement. So if we watch it again, I'm really cueing them to sit their hips back and down, and what a great moment to also try to cue knee tracking that we talked about in with a plie. So again, knee should be rotated over second toe, and they're really reaching the hips back and creating this two-way stretch where they're trying to almost reach past their foot. Again, nice mobilizer and really trying to loosen up all those layers of fascia. And not forgetting about the arms. So really, again, trying to get them to jump. It's meant to be a warm-up, get the blood flowing, and also a great way to mobilize the upper body. And at the end, have them do a roll down and just notice the increase in flexibility just after that little hamstring mobilizer. It's very cool.
All right, so I hope that gave you a few ideas. Those are just like 3 of my top ones that I usually give to students, either in a flexibility program or as suggestions to the students to do before any performance, any competition, any class, rather than holding any of those static stretches. And this doesn't mean you need to revamp your whole warm-up, just kind of tweak it and notice, okay, am I really getting the kids to hold things? How could I make this more dynamic? How could I get the kids to kind of move through things? And especially with static stretches, a lot of the kids can experience pain, and we actually don't want to experience pain in any stretch, because then the muscle has a reflex and it'll kind of contract and tighten right up even more so, and that again kind of defeats the purpose of a stretch. So think more dynamic, less static, and I will have some specific guidelines as outlined in Safe Dance Practice, which is a textbook I will speak to next week. And it'll have specific guidelines there for what to include in warm-up and also how to alter your cool down. And again, there's different stretches for warm-up versus a cool down or for your kids at the end of the night. So tune in next week. I will have specifics for you, but I thought those could get you started for your summer intensives coming up probably at the end of the month here. So think more dynamic, less static. Thanks, guys.